A dark triad personality can make a narcissist want to give up the ghost. It's that bad. Hey there, hey, it is Michelle with Brilliant Quest. And today, we got to talk. Now, I know you've been seeing a lot of stuff about narcissists, and it's intriguing because narcissism is actually something that is being encouraged. That's what I'm going to say, whether we realize it or not. It used to be said that a narcissist could not be made. A narcissist can only be born. But honey, some of these sociopaths are giving narcissists a run for their money. So what I want to talk to you today is I want to talk to you about the mental monsters among us. These are even worse than narcissists. So hold on to your butts. Let's get into it. All right. So whether you've heard this term or not, we're going to get into it. And it's called the dark triad. And the dark triad is a trifecta of personality traits that, when possessed, creates a mental monster. And it's to the point where psychologists are just saying, get away from them. They're all on the level of a malignant narcissist. Just if you discover one, get away from them. Do not go back. Okay. And I'm telling you this because on your mental quest, and that's what we're about here. We are about helping you build a better mind, become keen, become emotionally not only mature and intelligent, but emotionally malleable at will to what you need. And this falls in these understanding these personality traits falls into the realm of doing that. Now, what I'm going to do is I need you to make sure you check the description because I'm going to put 2 different links for you to go and quiz yourself or take a test to see if you might be part of the dark triad. And I looked to see if I could find some statistics of how many people are part of the dark triad in the population. And guess what? They said that it is many because they don't have a test for, not a test, but they don't have a classification for it in the diagnostic manual. And the closest thing that they do have to it is antisocial personality, ASPD, antisocial personality disorder. And that one is pretty bad. But the dark triad is even worse than the antisocial. And with the antisocial personality, what they're saying is that they believe that it's way more than are reported. All right, so let's get into them. So what is the dark triad? The dark triad are people with the personality traits of Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. All right, so let's take them one by one. And trust me, if you're like, well, that sounds like me, don't make any brash decisions until you go take the quiz, or the test, and go see a professional. All right. Don't self-diagnose on this. Okay. So with Machiavellianism, it is about manipulating. Okay. With narcissism, it is about extreme self-love to the detriment of others. And with psychopathy, it is about having a lack of empathy. But when you combine all 3, oh, baby, a dark triad personality can make a narcissist want to give up the ghost. It's that bad. Okay. And the reason why is because the dark triad, they are not only these separate ones, but combined, they tend to form a supervillain. That's the best way I can put it. A supervillain level of how they move around us because they become calculating, clever, cunning, persistent, and punishing. A dark triad person, if you deny them something, their feelings are not going to get hurt because they have a lack of empathy. They don't care about you. They care about advancing their agenda and what they want to get done. If you shut them down, trust and know they got 27 other more plans to come at you, around you, or to subvert you. The dark triad are win at all costs, get what I want at all costs, and I'm better than all these fools at all costs kind of person. Okay. So I'm taking a breath because I'm like, Michelle, you just got to go on and say it. And if folks talk about you, they talk about you. But for too long, I have been looking at a lot of folks that they probably are dark triads and how they tend, because they're so persistent, they tend to have a higher propensity for outrageous success because they can be charming and flattering and all of these things. They tend to do what the average person can't. And so they get the spotlight. So there are more dark triads that are your gurus and your people that you readily follow and try to replicate their success than you would imagine. And so what a dark triad will do is they will put up how I made $1 billion in 2 seconds, or how I did this, or how I did that. It's the I is there. And they'll put it up And now this is the sad part about it. They don't need your praise. They don't want your praise. They want something else from you. They want your obedience and your money. They want it where if they were to tell you tomorrow, drink this poison Kool-Aid, you would do it. So don't get it twisted. Unlike a narcissist who is ego-driven, when you add Machiavellianism and psychopathy to that, that need for that ego decreases to a point where it becomes extremely self-centered to do it myself for myself. So that's why I said they can make a narcissist cry, because the narcissism is what keeps them self-centered for, do I want this for me at all cost? But I don't care if you like me or not. That's how you can walk into a room, and because somebody is standing in front of you, just push them out the way and walk up to the front and settle yourself and don't even give a flying flip of what you've done. I'm sorry, because I just had a thought. I'm not saying it. Anyway, let's move on. So sometimes unawares, you are following a dark triad person and you are being trained to normalize this behavior without understanding that it is not normal. It is malignant. It is dangerous. You know, I knew this person. And when I found out, I was crestfallen because I had to look at them in a different light, because they had been the charmer, the flatterer. And then I started seeing things. This person was making a lot of money. And I actually kind of looked up to this person, you know, in the online, you know, atmosphere. And I was like, oh, they just got it all together. And then I found out that they were manipulating their accomplishments and their screenshots. I'll just tell you one kind of instance, like to show how much money you earned. Instead of putting it in US dollars, USD, because we both live in the US and we're Americans, right? No, you go put it in some obscure countries, whatever, and you turn the symbol off, or you put the symbol in front of it. So if you made $1,000, well, you might have made 59,000 won or baht. So you take that symbol off and you put the little dollar sign symbol on, and you show people, and you justify it by saying, well, it's the equivalent of $1,000. That's still a lot of money. But you led people to believe that the 59,000 was the US amount. And you coerce people to, no, you just flat out manipulate people to give you money, because they're so busy looking at what they see, their lying eyes, and looking at you and saying, well, if this person can do that, then by logic, they can do it for me, or by proximity, they can do it for me. So sure, take my money, right? And so this person got caught. They came on a webinar and started crying. It was fake crying. I mean, it was really bad, fake crying. And then they tried to sell the people who they were supposed to be giving refunds back. They tried to sell about something else. And do you know, some of those people gave them more money. Yes. And when it was over, a person I know personally who was there, not in the audience, but there with the person, said, do you know, once they got through, they immediately stopped crying. They were like, well, how much did we make? Do we have enough to keep going? I kid you not. Oh my God. I was like, oh. So I knew about dark triads, you know, from training. But up until that time, and I want to say that was about 12 years ago, I had not seen one that I had gotten duped by. And I mean, I didn't give this person money. We were colleagues. But when I found that out, I was like, oh, so this is what they look like in the wild. And why is Big Sis Michelle telling you about the dark triads? I'm telling you this because they look more normal than you. It is very hard to just look at someone and know, oh, they're the dark triad. So I want to make sure I give you the rest of these notes, because I want you safe out here in these streets when it comes to the mental stuff, because they will dog walk you and they will be gone down the street to another country and you'll be like, well, what will happen? Okay. So I'm going to give you some more insights about them. I'm going to give you some possible insights of telltale signs. And then I'm going to, basically tell you to run away from them. That's really what's going to happen. Okay, but here we go. All right, so with the dark triads, like I said before, and I'm looking at my notes because, like I said, I wanted to make sure I gave you all this stuff because I spent a lot of time trying to help you with this. Okay, so with the dark triads, they have a high disregard for people. They think of you as a playing piece on a board game. They don't see you as human, or they see you as movable bodies in a human game to win at all cost. Another thing is they have an obsession with winning and for themselves. Even when they join your organization, eventually, and they get you great wins, eventually it's going to be about them. You are going to notice that they are able to rope a lot of people in for advocating for them. And they have no moral compass. They can pretend, because the psychopathy, remember the psychopathy part, does not have any kind of way of empathizing with others. So they fake it. And because they've learned to fake it, they're really good at it because they know which situation to do it. They know that one note don't make the song. And so they have become studiers of true human emotion, and they are highly proficient in it to the professional level. So they can trick you. Yeah. And compassion, forget about that. What is that? Okay. Now, here's the part that tricks you up. You would think that by their actions, they would come off as cold and heartless. On the contrary, they are the ones who look like they care the most because it is all for their benefit. And they know that the way to win you is through the emotions. A lot of times when you suspect one, it's probably not. It's probably simply a low-grade narcissist. I mean, we all have a narcissism scale. And before I forget, I'm going to mention this book because I was going to mention it at the end, but there's this book and it's called Rethinking Narcissism. And I'll put it up right here. And the author talks about a famous mythological story of Narcissus and Echo. You can find that in the Greek tome called Metamorphosis. And he talks about how with narcissists, everybody has a little bit of narcissism on them, depending on the scale. And then there comes a flip over point where you move from narcissism to egoism. And egoism, in its extreme, are people who are highly embarrassed to their pain of being singled out, recognized, or a light shown on them. So where narcissist is self-love, egoism is self-denial. It's painful for them. If you've ever run into anybody that you tried to give them a birthday surprise, or you try to give them a gift, or you try to praise them in public, they're like, stop, please stop, don't do that, because they're in pain. That's an egoist. And so that is the opposite of the narcissist. And in that mythological story of Narcissus and Echo was a wood nymph who loved him. He was a man or boy who fell in love with himself, and he would gaze at himself at this pool in the woods, and she would love and watch him. And one day he reaches out to try to touch himself because he's so in love with himself. He falls in and he drowns. And Hera, you got spiteful queen of the heavens, Hera, cursing Echo for repeating something she said, and then the love of her life kills himself, and so she is relegated to walk around, and everything she says will be distorted and mournful, and that is why Echo can only repeat the last something of what someone said, and it's always haunting, but it's a way of explaining the narcissist side of this. And Rethinking Narcissism is a good book. And like I said, I like the approach of it because it does help you. And he even talks about the extreme narcissist all the way down to the everyday selfish people that, is still on the scale of narcissism. And I will say this, most people who take the two tests of the dark triad, most people are going to if they have any, they'll mostly have narcissism. And it is because our culture has bred us to be narcissistic. It's about individualism. I actually have another video that I talked about where the US is individual and not communal, and that we are currently in the time of the rise of the individual. Okay, so there's that. Now, getting back to this here dark triad. The dark triad is able to fool you, but not all the time. Okay. So here are some of the personality traits so that we can start here and move on up to some of the other things I want to tell you about before I let you go. So here are some of the signs of a person with a dark triad personality. Of course, I've already told you that they lack empathy, but get this. They are excessive in their lying. They manipulate tactics. So if one thing don't get you, they'll try another. They are extremely self-centered. They have impulsivity. Now, if you look at excessive lying and extreme impulsivity, that comes from them manipulating you because they don't have the connection through the psychopathy. You remember that's the lack of empathy. They don't feel that way about others, so they have to learn from people. And so the impulsiveness and the excessive lying comes because they're trying to gauge how to manipulate you to get what they want. And they're willing to change up. They'll tell you whatever story they need to in the moment on that day to get what they want. And so it becomes lying, but they don't see it as lying. They see it as trying to mirror you and trying to connect with you in this weird way. Now, it's important to understand they have a morality. They don't care one way or the other. If it serves them to help you, they will help you. If it serves them to shoot you, they will shoot you. It's just another day of living. It's the amorality of it all. All right, here's another one. And these are the ones that start to come out the more time you spend with them. They have a lack of concern for consequences. So they'll do something and they won't future cast of how it's going to hurt them. And the reason why they have this lack of consequences is because you are playing peace. They don't care what you think about them. And they figure if and when you try to do something to them, they'll just overpower you because they're highly aggressive. If you try to go up against one, either they're going to verbally shred you or they're going to outwork the devil to do you in because they petty like that. Okay. The next one is they are all about exploiting the circumstances for their advancement. If they become friends with you and you introduce them to your other friends, 9 times out of 10, they probably became friends with you because they were trying to leapfrog their way up to the friends with more power, and you were the doormat access to them. And so, of course, they're going to exploit any kind of circumstance they can for advancement. Now, I know this sounds cruel, but there are a lot of these people. And God darn it, we've got to know that they're out here too because they are mental monsters. You think a narcissist will mess you up. I think a lot of the times people are dealing with dark triads and calling them narcissists for the pain that they say they're experiencing. I'm like, oh, they rushed up on that. They weren't ready. But now you know, you're doing better. Okay, so the next one is they are promiscuous and unfaithful. Yes, indeed. That was self-explanatory. They are about promoting themselves and their successes. Now, this is that narcissism coming out of the self-centeredness because to them, what they're doing and their successes are more important than what you're doing. And so, of course, we want to talk about what they're doing because it's the most important thing. Because in their world, it's them. You just in it. Okay. And I remember when that saying came out, and I was like, oh, the narcissists are getting a rally cry. That saying that this is my world, you're just in it. I was like, oh, the narcissists are rejoicing. Okay. So then we have this one. They bully others without remorse. So unlike a bully who is doing it out of pain and they are doing it out of a certain avoidance tactic, meaning I hurt you before you hurt me, that ain't a dark triad. A dark triad, if you try to bully them back, they just gonna kill you. They'll be like, oh, be gone, squash you, bug. And that's why I say, when you're looking at these types of personalities, they are geared towards success at all costs. And thus they become a lot of gurus and influencers and people of power. And then the world starts believing that they must behave like the dark triad to have any kind of success, because these are the ones telling you, if you want to be successful like me, this is what you will do. You get it? Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to say is that when you are dealing with a narcissist, I mean, not a narcissist, a dark triad. When you're dealing with them and you suspect that they are, you want to start working your way out of their life as soon as possible. Well, why, Michelle? Why? Because they're dangerous. They're dangerous. They have a high willingness to exploit you at all costs. And when I say exploit you, if it means selling you in the skin trade to get what they want, they'll do it. And not think another thing of it. You know, I laugh when I hear some people say, how do you sleep at night? They sleep just fine. Just fine, ma'am. They sleep just fine. And then because you're thinking that they have empathy like you and I. Oh, and yes, y'all, I took both of them tests and I am not a dark triad. Anyway, just an aside. But okay. So they are, how can I say this? They are beyond chameleons. They are able to be the best actor or actress to where they can temporarily believe what they say. So remember when I said excessive lying, but they might not see it as excessive lying? A dark triad, if you say, well, you were just lying to me, they will sometimes tell you, at the moment I wasn't. I was being totally honest. But I change. Feelings change. They'll say something crazy like that and mean it. And it is because they can put on a suit. It's like they're skinwalkers. They try to walk in the suits of those who can feel for others. And they will sometimes trick themselves to be so believable that they try to play a role, but they're never that person. But it's a role to the point where they try to say, I believed it at the time, because they were trying to believe it at the time. But it still doesn't change. So you're saying, well, Michelle, is there any rehabilitation for a dark triad? At this particular time, no. And I say that with dread, and I mean, not dread, with sadness, because when you have Machiavellianism, that need to manipulate, coupled with the fact that a narcissist is quote unquote born that way, even if you didn't have the psychopathy in it, the manipulative self-centeredness would be too insurmountable. But then when you add in the psychopathy or the sociopathy, the antisocial, it gets you to the point where they would have to have their brains rewired as we understand it right now to change. And that is why the average psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, therapist is going to tell you, unless you are a dark triad too, and they doing you wrong, you need to get away from them. And speaking about doing you wrong, these are some of the signs that you know, that you can suspect that you might be dealing with a dark triad personality type. Okay, of course, I've told you that they're very charismatic, charming. They are huge flatterers. They make you feel special. But this is the rub. The longer you spend with them, the more they start to be exploitive. They can't sustain long friendships. They are always the victim, whether it be in relationships or in just how the world treats them, because they have a bottomless pit of being unfulfilled. It's never enough. They are never satisfied. On period. They are inconsistent in the stories they tell you. And they have no problems telling you about something bad about a previous relationship. You will rarely, if ever, hear them say anything good about a previous relationship. And it does not have to be marital, romantic, or friend. It can even be about their parents, sisters, siblings, brothers, and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah. And so the next thing I want you to know with this is that when you're dealing, or you suspect you're dealing with a dark triad, do not confront them with it. Don't accuse them and don't put labels on it. Because if you do, you might become a cast member for single white female. They will switch, because remember, they're chameleons. They're manipulative, excessive lying, inconsistent stories. They change on a dime because they have learned how to move or whatever. They will become quote unquote compliant. But one of the things, they can be very vengeful, and they will do whatever they can to destroy you. They don't care if it takes them 99 years with a loan for 30 more. They will destroy you, your family, your friends, and anybody who did work with you, because that's how dark triads are. When you're forced to have to deal with dark triads, these are some of the things that I will encourage you to do. And if you do not have the personality for it, just run. Even if that means changing your job, just run. If you can stomach it, you will quickly have to pull rank on them. You will have to deny them information. Dark triads are really good at interrogating you in a way that you don't understand, that they are demanding personal information from you, because they thrive on creating many dossiers on each person they interact with. So guess what? They know how to pull your buttons. The more information you give them, the stronger they become in how they manipulate you. You want to also make sure that you do not, and I'm going to say this one again, you do not give in to a dark triad's request, because they destroy boundaries. You are a playing piece on their chessboard that they can move around. They will try to wear you down. They will continuously ask. No matter how many times you say no, they will have another request for it. They will go around you. They will try to make friends, network, so that they can pull rank over you. If they are trying to get something from you, say for instance, you work for the city, they will make sure that they become friends with the mayor and the council so that they can get you removed from your post. They are that petty. And so they are mental monsters. They are planners. Unlike the narcissists who just like, feed me your praise and your worship. No, they are coupled with the manipulative, strategic thinking of the Machiavellian and the diabolical persistence of the psychopath, because they don't give a flying flip what you care about them. They just want to win, and they want to get what they want for themselves. So do not think that you have bested them. If you try to tangle with a dark triad, you might as well call it War of the Roses, because it's going to be for how long? Ever. It's just going to be forever. Okay. So I hope that this helps you. Check the links in the description. I'm going to have the two most common tests, and they're both free. I put the links where they're the free ones. So you can, take them or whatever. But as I said before, give heed to this, because our culture is enforcing their traits on us, and it's not going to end well. And I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with you if you're not willing or capable of doing some of the stuff that people are telling you to do to get ahead. If they're telling you to do things that cause others to be led by a falsehood, or to do things to them that in the long run is not sustainable, doesn't work, or is something that is old and rehashed, don't do it. I have heard too many times where people got into expensive training programs only to find out that they were dealing with a dark triad. They might not have had the terminology, but they were like, I got to get away from this. I got to stop. Oh, and another thing, another reason why you want to get away from them is if you don't do what a dark triad says or wants you to do. Remember I told you, if you're having to deal with them in a work situation, they'll try to do all these things. They have no problems with causing you threats, making it known how you will suffer if you don't do what they want. Yeah, that's them folk that we talking about. That's why I said, if you suspect and you can, you better run, you better run. I'm just telling you, get away. Because at this time, we don't know how to rework their mental firings. Yeah, it comes down to the way their brains work. Okay, so I know this one was like a woo scary one, kind of like when I talked about info hazards. But there are times when Big Sis got to tell you some stuff that's lurking out here, because I'm not going to have you out here like a little doe-eyed deer to get got. And the more and more you strengthen your mind and you become proficient in being highly adaptable, your environment is going to change, and you're going to come up on people that you didn't know they existed. You didn't know they could get down like this. And so understand, the dark triad is real. They suspect that we have a high population of them, and that our culture is continuously encouraging them and strengthening them to become more and more successful. And your probability of having to interact with them is becoming higher and higher. All right, so guess what? Yep. I want you to go on. I want you to watch this next video on your brilliant quest. And I want you to make sure, as I said before, check the description for the links for the test. Check the description if you want to do a one-on-one with me. And if you just say, you know, Michelle, I like what you're doing. I want to see that you can continue to do this. There are many different ways in the links in the description that you can contribute to the channel and for me to continue to keep doing this. So I want to thank you so much. This is your big sis, Michelle, with Brilliant Quest. I'm going to see you sooner than later. Bye.